Hey Chris, how we doing today?
Hey Ron, doing great. Looking forward to diving in again and talking about e-auctions. Today, I'm really excited to talk with you about advertising, organic SEO, paid advertising, and other means of getting traffic to our e-auction sites.
Yeah, I am too. The thing that's the funnest for me, obviously, being in marketing, I work with a lot of our clients after we build the site. It's you don't build it and they come, you build it and then you market it and then they come. So it's kind
That's
of
right.
like if you're going to throw a big party, you're going to let everybody know that you want to come. You're not going to go host Oingo Boingo in your backyard and not tell anybody about it and have a party for three. You're going to want to tell everybody and post flyers and get on social media. And why do we do that? To drive people to the event. And that's what auctions are. Auctions are events. So we're going to talk today about how to drive people to the event. And that is for both buyers and sellers, because whoever builds this auction platform, whoever owns the platform, that is their one responsibility, not only to make sure that the platform runs well, but to drive sellers and buyers to the site.
I could not agree more. And I think you said it really well. It's like a party. If you have the best party on the face of the planet as far as supplies and location and event itself, but nobody shows up, what's the point? It's
Yeah,
absolutely the same thing with auctions, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And it's almost like you can define it as SEO and CRO, right? SEO is well, SEO and paid ads are driving the traffic, and then CRO, the conversion rate optimization, is once they get to the party, are they having a good time? Did they find the auction that they want? Are they watching auctions? Are they putting alerts in? Are they buying? Are they engaging the site? So in this case, we're talking mostly about the marketing for today's, but the CRO is equally as important. And that's kind of what we've been talking about in the previous ones, is to have all of the features and the notifications and everything in the previous three webinars that really engage the user once they come to the party to have a good time, right? That's kind of the definition of what CRO is.
That's right. Agreed.
All right. So let's go and start talking about the organic SEO and what that is. And so go ahead and get us started.
Absolutely. So organic SEO is really, generally speaking, kind of like a popularity contest on the internet. And what I mean by that is in the early days of search engine optimization, the search engines really struggled with an algorithm that worked, that kept spam out and showed great content. Google came along and created their very sophisticated algorithm that fundamentally boils down to a popularity contest where other sites are linking and pointing at your site. And if your site has enough validity based on other popular sites pointing to your site, then your site ranks higher, typically. And there's a lot of sophistication to this, and we won't go into extreme detail in this webinar. The main thing to take away here, though, is that if you become a subject matter expert, in particular, in this case, for a set of auction areas, like categories or focus areas, then you as a site, your site itself will rise to the top. It will become, in the eyes of Google, in the eyes of your visitors and users, a subject matter expert. And this is something that you can do over time. And organic SEO does take time. So you want to consider that and factor that in. But some of the things that we can do is, again, like, we'll probably talk about a lot in this webinar, be very specific. And if we're able to kind of hit two birds with one stone, then what we want to accomplish here is go after what we would typically refer to as kind of bigger categories of keywords. Like, let's say that the auctions are for used office equipment. Okay. Well, used office equipment is a very generic term. So it's going to be extremely competitive. However, if we're also able to say maybe a specific type of device, like maybe it's a specific type of divider that's a certain year and it's a certain type of divider for an office for in between cubicles, for example. It may be the only listing on the internet for that particular device. And so if we say used office equipment along with that specific device name, then here we have an opportunity to rank immediately because no one else out there is kind of popular. No one else is even competing for that. So this is a really beautiful way to really kind of take advantage of SEO, is being really specific to your niche and then also being generic at the same time and trying to kill two birds with one stone. What are your thoughts on this, Ron, and how we do that with our eAuction platform?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's exactly right. In the popularity contest, we call the link building, right? Those are external links. The other half of it is the internal stuff. So how do we optimize each auction so that when Google comes and crawls that page, and therein itself lies a problem, does Google crawl it? How do they crawl it? And how do you force Google to crawl it? Google crawls sites for free because obviously its one main purpose, obviously to make money, but its other main purpose is to try to find all the information out on the internet. And then when somebody comes and searches for it, they serve up the most relevant answers. That's what they claim their claim to fame is. However, if they have any kind of error, or if they don't crawl certain pages on your site, you don't know about it, they don't tell you. Right. So one of the things that they've done is they've provided an additional tool. It used to be called Webmaster Tools. It's now Search Console. And so what you have to do is you have to ensure, just like if everybody understands what the sitemap XML is, right? The sitemap XML is supposed to include a link to every page, the frequency at which we're telling Google to crawl it and that we supposedly update the page, which doesn't happen, and then a priority of the page. So Google, when it sees the sitemap, can know how to crawl the site, which pages are updated more often, and what the priority of them is. Everybody used to kind of hack that and put daily and all that, but nobody goes and updates their homepage daily. So Google kind of devalued those, and now it just uses a sitemap for the URL. So we go to the Search Console, we register that sitemap, and it tells Google these are the URLs that you are supposed to crawl, and that helps force Google to crawl your site. So one of the things like in our platform is that we have a thing for the product pages or the auction pages. So we have an auction XML. So once these auctions get created, our platform will not only have a sitemap XML for the pages of the quote unquote website, which would be the contact us, the about us, the FAQs, all of the other pages that you might want to write to start initially driving traffic to the site. You specialize and give a lower percentage for people that bring estate sales and things like that to help drive people to come to your site so they can make more money. Those would be the static pages on the website. Those are going to be within the sitemap XML. Within the auction XML are going to be all of the auctions that are listed. And so what you can do is register that with Google and tell Google, hey, we also want you to come crawl through our entire catalog and index each of the individual auctions as well. So if you can put in all of the we call it on-page optimization fields, like the SEO URL, the page title, the meta description, some keywords. We put a limitation on that because Bing has finally started penalizing websites if you put too many keywords in the keyword field now. So, create a field that allows for, 50 words, but nothing more than that in that field so you don't overstuff and get penalized. You optimize the auction really well, and the platform dictates that. And if those fields are filled in, and then what you kind of described, if people are looking for more information, we call it long tail keywords, right? So you've got a keyword like if you and I were financial advisors and we hung a shingle and put up a website, people go out and Google financial advisors, you and I are never going to show up, right? It's just way too common. Fidelity, Charles Schwab, all those guys are going to show up. But if we go out and do what we call keyword research, and we find a keyword that instead of 500,000 people a month are searching for that is so competitive will never show up. If we found a keyword, a big long-tailed keyword like financial planning for kids' college fund, right? 5 or 6 words strung together, which we call a keyword phrase. And maybe there's only 900 people a month searching for that keyword, but the competition's really low. So you and I can show up in the top categories. If out of that 900, even 10%, 90 people a month every single month came to our website and hired us for financial advisors, our business would completely change, right? So we have to look at our business. We have to look at our needs to drive traffic. And then what you explained, going after these long tail keywords that aren't as competitive so we can show up. If you do that for a lot of different auctions and a lot of different long tail keywords, the next thing you know, you're driving thousands and thousands of people to your site, which is exactly what we're looking for. Do you want to go in and talk about the technical aspects at all, about the sitemaps and feeds and the schema at all?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I think this might be helpful for some folks listening. And in particular, what I would say is, what you were talking about with the on-page optimization is still a huge opportunity today. And this is something that a lot of businesses, they work with SEO experts, and a lot of the SEO experts will say things like, you can't have a directory, or you're going to have duplicate content and things like this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Google is looking and being in other search engines, but Google being the mass leader, they're looking for valuable content for their users. And if you're focusing on that with your operation, then you can deliver massive results within your space. And probably the biggest piece of advice we can give is to hyper focus and get better and better results. So to be specific, for a particular long tail product, if we use the example of a office space divider, we would pick a specific brand name and we would pick a particular model. But instead of just showing that on the site, we can also get the product details specifications document if we have that. And we can also maybe get instructions, a set of instructions that people can download. And that might be extremely valuable to folks. We've worked, Ron, with folks who have literally made 7 and 8 figure businesses from having more content than their competitors. Literally, that's their competitive strength. They literally just put more content out there for folks to find and get indexed. And then our job, and this is what we specialize in with these e-auctions, among other aspects, on the on-page optimization, we're really good at understanding mechanically how to deal with the schemas and automate this so that if you're publishing content, if your team is publishing content, if your sellers are publishing content, we can encourage them to include extensive information so that the site's content is getting indexed. We can go through approvals and workflows so we can make sure that the process incorporates some form of quality control. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if your team collectively, between your internal team and any sellers, are able to publish a lot of valuable content, then we're going to work with you to automate, making sure it's presented in the right schema and that it's sent to the right feeds, so that it's getting indexed fully. And this can be a massive competitive advantage. We've seen many of our clients grow their business, literally 50 to 100% a year in some cases, just from making changes like this and optimizing this, because it can massively increase the number of auctions that are occurring, the bids on the auctions, and it can become this kind of upward spiral that occurs.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you're not wrong about the results. I mean, we can provide that. And I might even show a few of them here when I go and post the video. One of the clients that I worked with and still working with today, we started working with them. They had 8,600 items in their site and no traffic whatsoever. They had less than 200 people a week coming to their website. And I went in there and did this and registered, put the sitemap together. It had 8,604 items within the catalog, registered that with Google. And within a day, Google started indexing 700 pages a day. And the traffic rose almost immediately to about 500 to 700 people a week visiting their website. Then we started writing the content and linking them all and voting for each other. And it immediately went up. And in less than 6 months, we had quintupled the traffic to their website and we had quadrupled their online sales in just 6 months of hard, really focused, targeted SEO work.
Man, yeah, that's powerful. It works.
It does. Let's run over now to paid advertising, because SEO, I love SEO. It's my favorite, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. But some people, they're like, well, can't I just pay to bring people to the site? I mean, I see advertising everywhere. Isn't advertising still functional? Doesn't it work? And the answer is absolutely yes. So why don't you introduce us into paid advertising and some of the different flavors?
Absolutely. And thanks. So one of the really beneficial things about paid advertising is it's relatively immediate, whereas long tail SEO and SEO in general is kind of a mid to long term strategy. And so paid advertising is constantly changing, but depending on your particular category, this is going to be something like paid Google ads. It could be social media like Facebook or YouTube. It can be highly targeted. It could be in a B2B advertising mechanism like LinkedIn. The list goes on, but the kind of the summary here is that we can mechanically take the content, in particular for auctions, and dynamically generate specific ads for those auctions. And this is really cool because if you think about what folks are looking for, we can actually target those specific niche focus areas that they're looking for, dynamically generate ads. These can be category level, they can be seller or brand level, or they can be actual products. And so we can even do some really cool things with this, Ron, where we're showing the countdown timer. And there are some different studies on, what works better in different markets. So we want to really pay attention to what's going to be the best for conversion rate optimization within your space. But the bottom line is that we have a lot of experience dealing with helping strategize on the advertising channel and then executing on the technical aspects of making this really kind of hands off once you're at scale with your advertising.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's a couple different facets to this. So like you said, with the Google ads, there's the ability to create ads and put the ads out there into different marketplaces like Facebook, like you mentioned, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google ads. You mentioned those. There's display ads. There's different types of DSA ads. There's dynamic ads that we can build. But there's also the ability to sell advertising space on your platform as well. And we've done that with our e-commerce platform, not alone just the auction platform. We've done that forever. And even when I go on auction or on like Amazon, and I go to buy something, if I scroll down at the bottom, it says, hey, people buy this with these other two things all the time, and they recommend a kit, right? That's basically advertising. And then you scroll down even further. Matter of fact, I was on it yesterday, and I went in and typed classic rock vinyl, because I'm a collector of, 70s classic rock records, right? And I read down and it shows at the bottom of the page one results, right below the 1, 2, and 3 to navigate to page 2 and 3, there's paid ads right below it from sponsored ads where people are paying to make their auction or their product show up. So not only do we have the ability to, as you mentioned, dynamically generate these ads that could be used and served up in either a paid and or a retargeted. We haven't even visited retargeted ads yet, right? But we can serve that up. We can also allow people that are putting their auctions up to pay additional money to have their auction featured on the homepage, or have their auction automatically be promoted for the final 2 weeks before, especially if it's like a huge estate auction. They'd probably be willing to pay an extra, whatever the number is, let's say a few $100s or $1,000. If it's a $50,000 or $100,000 worth of stuff, you think they'd be willing to pay an extra $1,000 for us to market the heck out of it the last 2 weeks before the auction? Sure, they would. So ability to have advertising and sell advertising and additional promotional capabilities within the auction platform is where I also think there's a huge market and capability that we offer.
Hear, hear. I agree. And it's really interesting because as you get into scaling an auction platform, you really want it to be able to compete with some of the bigger players that are out there. And that's where having this kind of synergistic, kind of feeding on itself type of model, where we're able to dynamically generate ads, dynamically generate retargeting, be able to make it easy for you to manage and promote, make it easy for sellers to manage and promote. And then, like you're talking about, Ron, inside of the platform itself, we need to make it easy for sellers to be able to promote themselves. And there's some really interesting aspects to this. A lot of folks that are not familiar with paid advertising, they may not be aware that most paid advertising platforms nowadays, they have quality as a major aspect of their decision making. It's not just about how much you pay for an ad. It's a non-linear equation with how much you pay, because they're incorporating quality. So you actually have to pay exponentially more if you don't have high quality advertising. It's really interesting. This makes a lot of sense if you think about their objective, which is serving their users. Well, in order to pay less and get better results, which every business owner wants to do, you have to just have better quality. And that's one of the huge benefits of having a very robust platform, very robust auction platform, the ability to make content dynamically from the platform that's really going to deliver the quality metrics that the advertisers are looking for. And then what's really powerful is demanding that from the sellers within the platform too. Whenever the sellers are advertising within your eAuction platform, are you just going based on paid advertising, how much they're paying, or are you going based on the quality of their ads as well? And, some form of feedback loop, so that, Ron, whenever you're looking for that, that classic vinyl rock, you're actually seeing like good results versus just whoever paid the most.
Right.
But either way, I think, it's a really powerful kind of topic for businesses, because as you're getting going and as you're ramping up, there are a lot of things that we can help you with that we've seen work for other auction platforms and other clients who are running auction sites, in general, e-commerce sites, and just overall, what does and doesn't work, that we're going to help advise you on. And, this is one area that is a really potent area, but it's full of detail that you have to be able to account for and address.
Yeah. Well said. Well, that about wraps up today's. Is there anything else you want to tie off on this before I announce what we're talking about next time?
No, let's go for it. I'm excited to dive into the next topic. Over to you, good sir.
All right. Well, it was fun today. Thanks again. Stay tuned next time, folks. We're going to be talking about payment methods. Then we'll dive into the platform security. We'll talk about performance from a physical perspective, and then the extensibility of the platform itself. So look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Ron. Bye for now.
Bye for now.